everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. So my name is Jessica Bentz, and I'm the Director of Customer Success at Rezgo. And I'd like to welcome you all to our webinar, Promoting Your Travel Products with Google Things to Do. So before we get started, just a reminder that we are recording today's session. We'll be sending out a copy to you by email, probably by tomorrow. If not tomorrow, then very early next week. Now, during the session, please go ahead and submit any questions that spring to mind in the Q&A. We will cover as many as we can at the end during the Q&A portion, but we will check in throughout the session with questions and just try to answer those as we go. So now I'm really excited to introduce our speaker today. This is Christian Watts. Christian is the founder and CEO of Magpie Travel, an integration partner with Google Things to Do. And he's also got many, many years of experience in the tourism industry. I was reading a little bit of your bio, Christian. And we're so happy to have him here to share his knowledge and just to help you all take the next steps in getting more direct bookings. So with that being said, I will hand it over to you.
Yep, thanks for the intro. I'll jump in just 1 second. Just so everyone knows that I've been running Magpie now since start of COVID, but before that ran the hop on hop off buses in San Francisco. So many years as an operator. So I feel the pain of most folks on the call, I'm sure. All right, I'm going to share here. So go to some slides. You can see that okay, Jessica?
Yes.
Yep. Okay. So Google Things to Do. We're going to cover kind of all aspects today. What it is, why it is, how to get set up, and anything in between. So these are the subjects we're gonna cover. Generally how Google is, TTD. If I say TTD, that means things to do. That's this program. Where your products show up within Google, different types of listings, so the different types of views of your products, how to set up your products, how to optimize them, and then what's next, which is a bit of guesswork. We don't have a long-term plan from Google, but they give us little snippets here and there of what may be coming up next. So I always start with this because it's what Google's always stuck to from day one. This is their mission statement: to organize the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful. So they've stuck to this from day one. Whatever the customer or the user wants and finds the most valuable, that's what Google goes with. They just got lucky that they found this monetization plan and they've been able to put ads on all of their search results. But they stick to this. Google Things to Do also is part of this. Whatever works for the customer, they will do next. And we have frequent conversations with Google, and you really can't get them off this. Every test they do, and they do a lot of tests, they do thousands of tests daily, it's always whatever the customer finds the most useful. Google Travel is part of Google. And what Google realized quite a while ago is that for certain searches, a different result view is optimal. So a good example of that is shopping. So if you're searching for a product in shopping, you get a very different search result back. Same with Google Travel. And I'll show you that in a second. So Google Travel incorporates these four, but it also includes transportation now. So it started with Google Flights, I think 12 years ago now. Then they did hotels, then vacation rentals, and things to do. So I think a lot of folks have probably used Google Travel to book flights or hotels, or at least look at it. So you can actually go on and it looks like an OTA. You're within the google.com surface and you can search to and from and a destination. You get a list of hotels. Everything happens within Google until you go and do the transaction. And when you click off to do the transaction, that happens on the hotel site or the airline site or the OTA. And it's no different with Things to Do. So you can surface all of your products on Google Things to Do, but the actual transaction happens on your website, so on the operator website. So you get all the money. You don't have to pay Google any commission. So this is just kind of an example, and then the purpose of this is to show you how much of the surface area now is being triggered by Things to Do. So this, with the pink background, that's all from Google Things to Do products. So I kind of go back to, I kind of date myself here, but the old 10 blue links that were all the free links before, that's long gone. And now, as you can see on mobile, it's almost the first 2.5 screens sort of 2.5 shares of the screen now are just Google things to do. So if you're not participating in this program, you're not going to start appearing until screen 3. And often screen 3, as most people probably know, is going to be TripAdvisor, a couple of OTAs, things like Wikipedia. So everything is getting pushed down as Google things to do grows. As I go through this, I'm going to show you lots of surfaces. These will be completely different depending on where you're sitting right now. Obviously the search words you use, the language you use. It's quite rare for two people to get the same search results. So whenever I show you a search result, don't type in exactly an X and be surprised if it looks different. They're also testing constantly. So often these things look very different. Just as an example of where these things go, and they give us these reports. This is from Google of the products that we submit to them. And this is the general trend. So the number on the far right was a couple of days ago. So we're actually we might have some more recent than that. But the record that we had was actually 2 days ago from Google. So as they expose this to more and more products, the traffic's going up. So it's on a one-way path really, as it covers more and more Google search results. So what is TTD? TTD things to do. It's free product listings and it's ad campaigns as well. So like I said before, Google's very good at giving you free traffic and they're very good at kind of giving you a place to upgrade to get even more traffic. So these are the 7 surfaces I'm going to cover today. I'm going to go through this fairly quickly. The important thing is don't focus on each and every surface. You're not going to be able to get your products exactly within this surface every time. It's a bit like SEO or search engine optimization. If you do the right things, submit your products properly, you'll get the most coverage possible. But it's quite difficult to engineer each and every one of these surfaces. And when I say a surface, I just mean a section of a Google search results. Google calls them surfaces. So first of all, let me just move this window here so I can see everything. Admissions module. This is generally for attractions. I understand there's probably more tour operators than attractions here. But if you search for a specific attraction like Top of the Rock, you'll get this list of prices. Now, the actual operator of Top of the Rock will be first. They're called the official site if they've submitted everything properly. And then below that are all the resellers of that product, which is often going to be a bunch of OTAs. So these are ordered right now in price. So the lowest price is going to be at the top. Official operator top, and then below that is ordered by price. Can't get to next. There we go. Next one is
Jen,
Google
do you mind if I ask
search.
you, do you mind if I interrupt for a second? So are you, if you're not participating in Google Things to do, does that mean that it's most likely or very likely that your official site would not show up at the top, even though they're searching the exact attraction?
So Google have added, this is for attractions only, right? So Google have added some attractions kind of manually. So they got all the biggest sort of observation decks and theme parks and that kind of thing. So most of those will be already on there, but some not.
Some not, okay.
It's
And
kind
as
of,
you said, we've got a lot of operators, not so much attractions here.
yeah. And it's quite surprising to me how much manual work Google does. I think everyone thinks of them as this big automated company, but they do the same stuff we all do. They mess around with spreadsheets and all kinds of stuff.
That's interesting. Thank you.
Yeah. Google search. So this is just a plain search, right? So if you search for a point of interest, like a national park or a bridge or a building or a park in the city or a cathedral or something, you get these search results, and these show the experiences. So if your tour goes to these points of interest, to these POIs, then you can display on this section here. And these look like sort of product detail, like an OTA listing almost. And these will open up to a bigger product detail and then bounce to your website. So this is called the experiences section. This is where Google started on this point of interest search. So it was all about finding the points of interest that you can appear on. And it's still lots of traffic comes from that. Next one, if you type a specific category, and this came out middle of last year. So if you search now for Boston food tours, Boston bike tours, Boston bus tours, Boston walking tours, pretty much anything Boston tours and a third or fourth search word, you'll get this tours and activities section, as you can see on the right.
I think I still see the admissions module on my screen.
Oh,
Sure.
I've paused screen sharing somehow. Let me do that again.
There we go.
Now do you see it?
Thank you. Yeah, I see Surface 3 Google search.
All right, good.
Great. Thank
Not
you.
sure what happened there.
It
Yeah,
happens
so
sometimes.
anything, yeah, anything tours. I mean, this is general kind of search words now, and these are the biggest search words for most people's products. In San Francisco, it was always for us, it was always San Francisco tours would be the top keyword to get the most traffic. But that now drilling down to these specific categories, there's tons of traffic coming through that. So you'll get this carousel on the right, you can see here, that scrolls over to the right. I think we get up to 12 products that show up in this carousel. It's quite difficult to get this perfectly optimized for your products. There's a lot of OTAs showing up in that section, but there are certain things you can do, which we'll cover in a little bit. I don't know why I'm not able to scroll through here. Did that move now? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, you're good.
So this is just an expanded version, so you can see all the products shown out. This one on the top is the sponsored. So these are the paid, as it says, sponsored tours and tickets. So these are the paid ads. So you take your product, it's part of Google Ads now. I'll cover that a bit more later on. But the same products that you submit to Google, you show up on these free surfaces, and you can also pay to have them show up on these sponsored surfaces. Most of these ads right now are OTAs. I'll cover this in a bit, but they're generally very inexpensive. For large US cities, we see people paying 8 cents, 10 cents a click. Conversion is not going to be as good as a regular Google ad, but at 8 or 10 cents, you're paying a fraction of what a regular Google ad costs for most people. This is now the place card or the booking options. So this is where someone searches for your company name specifically. So when they search your company name, you'll get your Google business profile pop up on the right or on the main screen if it's on mobile. And then below your business name, you'll get these what they call booking options. So you can add up to 10 products under your booking options. And always currently, and Google won't guarantee this, but always currently, your own company products will be on the top. Below your products, OTAs can also display products. So you might have below your top 10, you might have Viator sitting below that with 10 products, Get You Guide sitting below that, and other OTAs. But this is the one section where right now you're guaranteed to be at the top. So Google does value that when people searching for your company name, people do want to see your company products at the top. Doesn't stop them from adding the OTAs below that, which a lot of people don't like, but that's what they do currently. We've got now Google Maps, again, points of interest, but there's lots of different searches that work now on Google Maps. So if you're searching for, again, the park or the cathedral or the bridge, and there's tickets underneath, and the admissions will show on Google Maps. Generally, Google Maps is about half of the traffic that we see from Google Things to Do. And it's a lot of the last minute traffic as well. And the last one is Google Travel itself. A lot of people don't know this, but there is a kind of a section of Google. It's called Google Travel. It's google.com/travel. And that's where you'll see these things to do section. You can search points of interest and you can do various searches within. We're not exactly sure how much traffic comes through this. We don't get stats on this, but there is a place called Google Travel, which I'm sure some people use. So that's the surfaces. Again, don't worry too much about exactly where your products are shown and why they're shown here and not shown there. If you get everything set up correctly, you'll get the maximum possible exposure. So the surfaces I've covered there, these are the sort of display types. So the admissions one I talked about at the start, this is for mainly for attractions or for people selling tours which include the attractions. So you'll see some tour operators on this for Statue of Liberty, like Walks, Amigo Tours. So these are sorted by price. You can have multiple options. So there might be a VIP option or a with lunch kind of option. You could put your company branding on there. Only one company gets the official site tag. They will always be top. Trackable link generally with Google Things to Do when you submit your products, which we'll cover next. You can add tracking so you can see where the traffic came from in your Google Analytics. And then within this section, you'll get direct links to tour companies, you'll get OTA links, and you'll get some ResTech links, some reservation companies. So the second type of view is going to be the experiences, and this is applicable for most people. So you'll get these cards on the left, which I showed you a little while ago. And then when you click on one of those, so if I click on the Complete Vatican Tour, this top left Walks product, on the right, this is the tour detail, which pops up. Looks just like an OTA listing, but it's not. This is the Google Things to Do listing. So you'll get all the usual stuff, the price, the reviews, if you have reviews, inclusions, exclusions, highlights. And then when they click Visit Site, it goes to your website. And the transaction happens on your website. And then the third type is the ads carousel, which, as I showed you before, kind of scrolls over. And there's also a little ad which happens on some Google business profiles, that middle picture there. So the good news is, good news and bad news, that OTAs are already connected. The OTAs jumped on Google Things to Do quickly, and they already have most of their products showing up. So if you sell through any of these OTAs, chances are your products are already showing up on Google Things to Do. Downside, of course, is if you're selling through OTAs, you're paying them commission. These Things to Do products will all go to their website and they'll take the commission out. So you want to get your products on there directly. So for direct integrations, and we have a partnership with Rezgo, so you don't need to worry about these other ResTechs, but Magpie will get your products on those places directly, so the traffic goes to your website, and you'd have to pay out the commission. I'm going to go into setup now. Jessica, any questions on that surface stuff to cover?
Yes, we do have a question. So does your product to issue tickets to appear under the admission section?
If you're I think I understand that. If you sell, so a lot of tour operators might sell the attraction as a separate or as an inclusion. If you sell an attraction just as a standalone, you can be in that admission section. If you sell that attraction as an inclusion as part of your tour, you'll be in the tour section below the admission section, if that makes sense.
So you can technically appear in both.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you could, yeah. You could have different options, one
Yeah.
with just the attraction and one with the tour, including the attraction, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, so setting up your products, and this I'm just going to go through. This is a Magpie screen, but this is more important. This is the information that Google collects. So it's a little bit like the information that you might send to an OTA for those working with Viator or Get Your Guide or similar. But it's important that you get this correct. There's not as many fields. There's far fewer fields than working with an OTA, but it's important that you get it correct. So number one, we send you product name. Now you can use your regular product name that you use everywhere else, or you can make your own product name just for Google. We do recommend that you use kind of keywords within the product name. So for example, for this product, we normally call it a city and wine tour. But when so many get to Google, it's better to call it a San Francisco City and Wine Tour. So we've kind of inserted the word San Francisco as a keyword in there. It gets better visibility on Google with that city name in the actual product itself. So product name is important. You need at least one option name, which is often the same as the product name. So call that the same if you like. And then the website link. So this is your website link. This is your website product page where the customer will land on to do the actual transaction. That's where you could put the tracking. So I've got that UTM at the end there. That's where you put your tracking for Google Analytics, so you know where the click came from. And then pricing is really important. The only price Google wants is the adult price in your currency, and it's got to be the final price to the customer. So if there's fees, taxes, anything else that's going to come on the booking flow, they need the final price. And they do manually check that. So make sure you get that correct. If prices don't match by a certain amount, they'll take your products down. Next screen is locations. So at the top here, this is where you add your Google Business Profile so that your products show up under your Google Business Profile section. And then aside from that, you want to add as many points of interest that you include. Points of interest gets a little bit complicated. Points of interest include things like attractions, which could be paid, like museums, but they also include some free stuff like parks and plazas and cathedrals. So the only way really to find those points of interest is just to sit and do searches for products within your city or your location. You can add up to 100 points of interest. We recommend generally adding no more than 10. If you start adding 100, it looks spammy to Google and they give you less visibility. So description, this is fairly self-explanatory. Description of your product, highlights, inclusions, exclusions. Make those as detailed as you can. Probably follow the same rules as you would do for your own website. Reviews is important. If you can add reviews, you're going to get tons more visibility. So Google don't give us a ton of guidance on how to optimize your products, but they do talk about reviews a lot. So if you display reviews on your product pages, you need to display the average score, the number of reviews, and a selection of the actual review text. If you do that, then you can check this box, and then Google will display your review score on your product listing. That will get you moved to the top. It's quite difficult on some of these surfaces to get visibility if you don't have reviews. So that's definitely something anyone should look at. When I said at the start, Google is customer first, they're surfacing this because customers care about this. So because Google says that, I think regardless of things to do, having reviews on your website is a really good thing to have today. Last page is categories. So Google's got about 25 categories like guided tours and family fun and museums and things like that. Choose as many categories as you like. Add at least one. We recommend up to 5 good quality images, and you're done. And then that product, we give you sort of a preview of what it will look like when it's final on Google, and that's the final product. So I'll cover these sort of briefly, but again, this goes back to the start and I always tell people it's a bit like doing SEO or search engine optimization. If you do the right things, you just got to trust that Google will recognize that and they'll pick it up. So don't try and hack the system. Don't try and cheat the system. You might get away with it for a while, but Google catches up with you and they will give you credit for doing the right things over the long term. So products, once submitted to Google, we submit them twice a day. They're going to show up within the first few hours. So you'll get immediate traffic from this program. Like I say, think of it like your SEO. So put the right products in there, get those keywords into your products, get the keywords into the descriptions and highlights, into your titles is good. Keep it fresh. Add all of your points of interest. It is up to 100, but I do recommend up to 10 for most people. Don't start adding every little park that you can see from some weird hill on the side of whatever. Just add the main points of interest that you're covering. Don't leave gaps. So if they ask for highlights and inclusions, exclusions, which they do, make sure you fill out those fields. Google cares about having complete content. Use great images. You can check those as well. The weird thing is that Google wants the product submitted and in a landscape format, but will often display them in a square. So just look at that and look at what some of the other products are looking like on Google surfaces, and make sure that if your if your photos are resized by Google, that they still look okay. We don't really have control over that, so we just have to submit them, and then they'll crop them for various surfaces depending on where they're showing up. So just make sure you have a look at what they're looking like on Google, and you can change your images at any time. Keep it fresh. They do care about the freshness of content, so it is good to update sometimes just for the sake of it, which is good for SEO anyway. Accurate prices. They do check manually prices. Your product has to be available in the next 30 days. This obviously comes up with seasonal operators. So if you don't start operating until May, you don't need to submit your products until April. They will take your products down if they go on and they can't find them available in the next 30 days. So for seasonal operators, we stop submitting them in the off season and then turn them back on when it's 30 days ahead of launch date for the next season. Price, like I said, include all fees at checkout. And yeah, monitor your placement, see which competitors are showing up for your keywords. And like SEO, if you can find clues, if you can find things that people have searched, people are showing up for that you're not, use that and try and cover those keywords yourself. So a little bit about the ads. So Google just moved this over. It was kind of a separate program within your ads, but now they've moved it to a program called Travel Campaigns. I'm not going to cover this in too much detail. If you work with an agency, I know some people do, your agency is probably able to handle this today. We work with quite a few agencies that work with lots of operators that set these up for people. You don't get a ton of control over your spend on this. So you're basically setting a target return on ad spend, ROAS, and you can set that as high as you want. So if you want to get a higher return, you'll probably get fewer impressions, but you can set that wherever you like. And then Google is basically matching keywords. So they will determine where and when your products are showing up. You don't really have any control over target for anything really, except for that target return and then your daily budget. This is just some sort of pages on setup, but a lot of this is changing now with the move over to travel campaigns. We got lots of results on this. So this is just one companies. I've taken the names off here. This is private information which was shared with us through an agency, but there's lots of examples. Some people are getting conversions at $3, $4, $5. Some people are not getting good results at all. These are the ROASs. These are the returns that we see. It's anywhere from zero return. Usually the ones that are getting zero are because they've just started and they've only spent a few dollars. It takes a while to get the results from this. But the average we're getting is 12. So for every dollar you spend, you're getting $12 back. And those are usually the ones managed through agencies which do a really good job on knowing how to optimize these. So people are asking, is it the right time to jump in? Often people are saying, listen, the product isn't finished yet. It's still changing. This has been out now for 2.5 years. There was a product before this called Google Reserve, and Google thinks that it replaced Google Reserve. So some people say, listen, let me just wait until it's kind of the final product. It's never going to be a final product. Google are always going to test this. They're always going to change it. They're always going to add surfaces, take surfaces away, move products up and down. So it's never going to be final. You're waiting for something that's not going to happen. Your impression share is already down. The OTAs jumped on this 2.5 years ago, and they've been getting lots of traffic from this from day one. So if your organic search is down, or if it's not up as much as it should be, it's because the OTAs most likely are taking that business. Also, your competitors. If your competitors are doing this, they're taking your share as well. So between OTAs and your competitors, they're already on there. That screen I showed you at the start with the first 3 pages being mostly Google Things to Do products, that's happening today. Those clicks are going somewhere, and you need to get your fair share of that. So these are just questions to ask a Google partner. I've kind of covered most of this earlier. You'll get these slides, I believe, or you can watch this back in the video. And these are just some top tips. So I think I've gone through that quite quickly, Jessica, but generally, top tip, expect changes. Don't be surprised if you've spent all this time kind of optimizing your product for a certain view, and then the next day it changes. Also, it'll change depending on obviously if you're mobile versus desktop. And it'll change depending on language you're searching in, depending on your location you are right now with your IP address. So expect things to look very different. We do this all day long. We've got people in different locations and we're all searching in our phones, trying to see which sections are showing up and which aren't. But the best thing you can do is do the right things and you'll show up in the most places possible. Focus on quality, get everything maximum, all the fields, best content that you can. Optimize your landing pages. They do care about, and this is for SEO as well, when they land on your page, the last thing Google wants to see is people click back. It's a bad sign if they hit your page and go back and search again. Always think customer first. So anything you do on this, what would the customer want? Whatever the customer wants, you should be supplying. Play the long game. This is basically like back to do the right things. Don't try and cheat the system. Don't try and hack. There are always hacks you can do with Google, but usually they'll catch you out sooner or later, which is the same as following the rules. All right. Happy to take questions or have a chat or whatever is most appropriate.
I'll wait for some questions here, but well, thank you so much. I like how you kept saying, and I've seen this in talks you've done previously, just really reminding everyone, do the right things. And it's, and if you are interested in, working with Magpie through Rezgo, I'll send information as a follow-up. You can just let us know and we can make that happen. But it's really, there've been really great resource to help you do that. But as you saw in the screenshots, it looks quite simple to fill out your products, but doing the right things is a really, really good tip. I have a question. There's a couple coming, but I had a quick question as well. Is it true that you saw the description there? Would you advise having a different description if you work with OTAs? Would you advise having a different description for your things to do listing for your, say, your Viator listing to try to differentiate traffic?
Yeah.
For the search?
So I'll kind of make my own question based on that. You should definitely have a different description for an OTA versus your own website, right? That's definitely best practices. That is unique. I wouldn't worry so much about your Google description. They're not going to penalize your website because you've submitted the same to Google products. But definitely different to Viator. You shouldn't be submitting your website description to Viator or any OTA.
So we have a few questions on how to go about setting up Google Things to Do. So if you're working with Rezgo, you can definitely, I'll send you this information by email, as I mentioned. You can reach out to us and we will connect you directly with Magpie, who is our integration partner, and they can get you all set up. They've definitely done this for several of our customers already, and get you all set up with their services. And then another question is asked if you could briefly talk a little bit about Magpie services specifically, Christian. I know that not just with Google Things to Do, but I know you have other services as well.
Yeah. So we just a bit of background. So when I was operating Skyline sightseeing in San Francisco, and we were city sightseeing for most of that time, we worked with about 150 resellers, which is a lot, right? But with a hop on a off, you want to maximize kind of volume. So because we work with so many resellers, it was a full-time job for multiple people just to keep up to date with that content. So we built Magpie really to manage that content in lots of places. So Magpie is integrated with Viator, Get Your Guide, Musement, Expedia, and Google Things to Do is just another one of those. So the concept behind it is you can manage your product content in one place, and then you can update that content in lots of other places. So if you update your description in Magpie, you can then click a button to send that to Viator, send it to Get Your Guide, and also send it to Google Things to Do. So the idea is single source of truth for your content and maximize your distribution of that content. So you can share it with OTAs, but you can also share that content with the concierge down the street or the travel agent or anybody else that wants it. And then we also handle things like translations. So we can translate. We use AI tools to translate your languages, and you can share that with others as well. So when Google Things to Do started, that for us, that just became another channel. We already had Viator, Musement, Get Your Guide, Expedia, and all the others. And then Google Things to Do just became sort of the next one. So that's what we really focus on, is helping you manage your distribution to get your products in as many places as possible.
I hope that answered those questions. And this, I think, is related to how do you get set up. But one question is, how does one get to the page you showed to input our product onto Google Things to Do? So that was Magpie's systems getting set up, correct? Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect. And
yeah,
then
I can show you that if you like. I can jump on a Magpie and kind of show you where that is in real time, if that would help.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Before we while you're doing that, I just wanted to make sure we touched on another question that said thoughts on how this might feed into Gemini. I'm not too familiar with Gemini. Are you, Christian?
Yeah. I just wrote a whole article on how this fits in with Gemini.
Oh, really?
I don't
Well,
think
then
it was
you're the
published yet.
expert.
Yeah. It's maybe it's quite a broad question, maybe.
Okay.
So Gemini right now is integrated with hotels and flights. I expect the person asking the question knows that. But if you want, so for those that don't know, Gemini is ChatGPT, but it's Google's version, and it just came out with an upgrade 2 weeks ago, and it's actually really good. And it does integrate with flights, hotels, and maps, which makes it really good for travel, especially the maps piece. There's no things to do currently on Gemini, but I think that's going to be coming soon. Google definitely hasn't told us that. If they did tell us that, I wouldn't be allowed to say it anyway. But I imagine that will be coming soon because it's all part of the same Google Travel. And Google really thinks about that, right? So if someone's searching for the typical search now is that things to do gets the most searches, right? Things to do in New York. It's great because you can search Google Maps, but really you want products. So people want to see the products to do in New York. And Google has those now through Google Things to Do. So I think they will connect those two pretty quickly. There's a Google person who heads up AI for Google Travel. He's actually doing his presentation on Sunday or Monday at Arrival in Berlin. And I'm not sure if he's going to talk about that or not, but I'm happy to share that if he says anything about that integration. But I would assume at some point it will be part of Gemini. The other thing that comes up all the time, maybe that's what the question was, but how do you get your products to show up in Gemini itself, in kind of the AI itself? And that's something which there's been lots of conversation about. I think it's kind of SEO rules as well. I think if you do the right things for SEO that you should be doing anyway, that's the best thing you can do to get the AI models to pick up your content as well. Hopefully that makes sense.
Thank you.
I could talk about AI for the next 2 hours and I'd go in too deep for most people, but
We'll bring you back for an AI
let me not
webinar.
do that.
While you're doing that, I might just answer this. A few minutes ago, you had mentioned something related to TripAdvisor and Viator, just to reiterate what you had said. I believe what Alec is referring to is the content distribution, how Magpie, if you can manage that content all from one place. I believe that's what, yeah.
Yeah, I'll do this for just a couple of minutes then. You can see my dashboard here.
Yes.
Yep. So this is Magpie when you log in. So this is me logged in as Skyline Sightseeing in San Francisco. So it looks a little bit like, when I go into my products, it looks a little bit like a extranet for those that are dealing with Viator, Get Your Guide, and others. So I've got a list of my products here. I can click into my products and I can manage all of those fields within the product. So I've got kind of descriptions and inclusions and exclusions on all of that stuff. Got lots of settings and locations, and there's all my points of interest that I manage for this product. So once I'm inside my product, I can just go to this Google Things to Do tab right here. And those are the stages that I showed you in the presentation. So for this product, this looks a bit messy up here, but inside Magpie, we call this just 1 day hop on hop off. That's our typical name. But we've changed it for Google. Like I showed you before, we've put San Francisco tour. That's kind of like SEO from 20 years ago. That's key. It's almost like keyword stuffing, but it's not a hack. It's a reality. It's a good keyword to have for this product. So Google doesn't think of that as a negative thing. It just thinks, well, that's what it is. It's a tour of San Francisco. So put the word in the title. That gives us better visibility. This landing page here, that section there is the actual landing page. Anything after that, a lot of people will know. I've just ruined that. This UTM stuff at the end is the tracking, so I can track where this came from and see that in my Google Analytics. I've got the adult price here, including everything. So my locations, this top one is my Google business profile. And then these are all the points of interest, so as you can see, some of these, actually most of these are going to be just free points of interest. So Golden Gate Park, clearly it's just a city park and the bus goes through Golden Gate Park. So we add that and we can say it's included. Pier 39, kind of a shopping mall in San Francisco. A lot of people will know. Again, we go past that, we put it included. So we get tons of traffic through some of these points of interest. So they're worth definitely adding. If you're doing a walking tour and you walk through the city park, add it to this and you'll get traffic through that. And then descriptions. We do show reviews on our site. We have a little widget where we show the reviews, so we get to add that. And then we have images and categories. So those are the 5 categories which we chose. And then we pick our best images. And that's it. That's the 4 steps. And then, like I showed before, this is what the product will look like. We give you sort of a preview of how it's going to show up on Google. And then just so you can see, since it relates to the other question, outside of Google Things to Do again, but these are the other resellers that we integrate with. So we have a direct integration with Google, Viator, Get Your Guide, Musement, and Expedia. But then all these other resellers you can also share your products with as well. And there's a few hundred on there. And you can set up your products. You can kind of manage them through Magpie. So you know which company's selling which product. We can send them on, can set auto notifications. So when you change something, they get an email to say something's updated, things like that.
Right, that's very helpful. Thank you. I have one more question asking about your pricing model. Is your pricing model lower if you just use it for Google Things to Do and not the other services?
No, we've included Google Things to Do in the main platform price. So it starts at $49 a month. That's for up to 10 products. And then for up to 50 products is $99, and for up to 100 products is $149. And then we have additional services on that for some operators. We manage a lot of things for them, or we've got things like reviews as well, which you can use Magpie for. There's different levels for that, but the entry price is $49 a month. And then there's no cost per click. So we send all your products to Google, and all the traffic you get is basically free after that. Except for the Google ads, obviously.
I will just answer this one last question. Is there a link between Rezgo and Magpie for product management, or are they totally separate? So the connection between Rezgo and Magpie is Magpie is our partner for Google Things to Do. So this might be related more towards the OTA question, because we do have OTA connections. If we have a customer using Rezgo as their ResTech for direct bookings, they can connect to certain OTAs. But Magpie, you're updating mostly the content portion.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
instead of
exactly.
going
So
into your,
Rezgo will handle the availability, right? And reservations come through Rezgo and all of that, which is great. We'll just update the content. So the two work hand in hand, and Magpie doesn't touch availability or reservations.
so they might have also wondering if they're updating their content for their Rezgo account within Magpie, which that we have not. I usually would recommend, anyways, updating it right in Rezgo. But when it comes to OTA content, the benefit of using Magpie for that is if you work with several OTAs, you don't have to go into each portal. You can just do it in the one place. But again, the Google Things to Do listing, if setting it up with Magpie, that does go to your direct website, as Christian mentioned earlier, which then therefore, if you're a Rezgo user, means the booking comes into your Rezgo account as a direct sale. So I hope that answered that question. So we're at 45 minutes. So unless there's any final questions or comments, we can leave it there. I did have a comment just about sharing the webinar to kind of go through it more slowly for better understanding. Absolutely. This will be sent out, the recording, probably by tomorrow. And again, I will include a link to our landing page. It has some more information if you want to get set up with Magpie, especially if you're a Rezgo customer. You can respond to the email and we can connect you directly with them. So thank you so much, Christian, for taking the time to be here. We hope to have you for a future webinar, maybe on AI again. And then if there's any questions that anyone didn't get answered or want, think of later, please let me know and we can definitely do our best to answer that. All right. Well, thanks so much. Enjoy the rest of your travels, Christian.
Yeah, thanks so much. I
Good luck
appreciate it. Nice to
ITV.
meet everyone. And yeah, please reach out if there's questions through Jessica. We'll be happy to get back or jump on a demo or something if it helps.
Yes, perfect. Thank you. All right. Enjoy the rest of your travels.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. Bye.
Take care.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for coming.